Sorry, ran out of memory. Carrying straight on. As masculism spreads, more journalists of either sex will be exposed to these ideas, and some journalists will find them interesting and put them in their media pieces, their newspaper reports, their television programs, their magazine articles, etc. In time, so many millions of young women will be feeling babyless due to the paternity boycott of the MGTOWs that they will be hungering for articles written by feminists to explain why quality young men refuse to give them their sperm. So inevitably, these feminist journalists will be forced to investigate what the Masculists and MGTOWs are thinking and why so many quality men refuse to marry and have kids. Gradually, society will become more exposed to Masculist and MGTOW ideas, so that a decade from now, probably, most people will have at least an inkling of what Masculist thinking is about. They may become familiar with Masculist slogans such as "Be FIP" or "Be manless," or "No calculus, no baby," or now that women can work, they must work, etc. The Masculists push the journalists to spread Masculist thinking a lot further. A culture cannot claim to be Masculist if millions of people in that culture know nothing about Masculism. Converting the media is one of the highest priorities of the Masculist leaders, a task that has barely got off the ground due to the monoconscious bias of the feminist journalists. Bullet. Prick feminist arrogance with masculist science. Young feminists today are insufferably arrogant, utterly brainwashed all their young lives by feminist ideas that men are toxic, men are rapists, women are morally superior, women are peace lovers, etc. So when they see men, they see their oppressors, a morally inferior sex. Masculists are fed up with this attitude of monoconscious feminist princesses, so crush it with masculist science by teaching these monoconscious feminists that, in fact, as shown by science, men are the superior sex in many respects. Masculism as an ideology is much more science-based than feminism, which is more a religion to women than a science. Feminism preaches to women what women desperately want to hear, that is, that women are men's intellectual equals, that anything a man can do, a woman can do, etc. Most feminists are iscienists and innumerates, in brackets, that is, unable to think scientifically / mathematically, due to ignorance of science / math, close brackets. So masculine scientists have an easy time intellectually crushing these feminist delusions with masculine science. For example, the most damning thing about women is their 10% smaller brains. A fact that has been known for over a century, yet is not known by everyone, since it is so demeaning for women. Since women have 10% smaller brains, they have 10% less neural processing capacity than men. So it's not surprising that women invent almost nothing, build almost nothing, create almost nothing. Women are dumber than men by 4 IQ points on average, have a 10% smaller IQ variance than men, so that women's IQ scores over a whole population are more bunched up and men's more spread out, so that the morons and the genii are males. So it is to be expected that women have won a pathetic 1% of science Nobel Prizes. Men have 10 times the testosterone levels in their blood than women, so are much more aggressive, ambitious, dogged, persistent, so finish difficult challenges far more easily than women, so men dominate the entries in the Who's Who books. Men don't admire nor respect women due to women's grossly inferior performance track record. Men are forced to be nice to women since men want to penis women. Women have always had a monopoly over reproduction, since it is the woman who decides which man gets to ejaculate inside her to get her pregnant. Women have always had their two traditional monopolies over men in the form of their vaginas and wombs. But soon, women will lose both these monopolies due to male engineering genius in the forms of the sex bots, and the art wombs. The sex bots are coming out now with their luscious curves, their film star faces, their creamy, grippy vaginas, and increasingly equipped with AI, that's artificial intelligence, based conversation abilities, with personalities judged to be pleasant by men. Women will not be able to compete with such sex dolls. Japanese scientists have already grown a goat in an art womb, that's artificial womb. So when men can grow their own kids and prefer to sex their bots rather than the 40% of women who are obese and the 30% who are fat, then men will not need women, so will be less motivated to be nice to women, since so many men will not feel the need to penis women. As a result, it's likely that men will become much ruder to women. Increasingly, as masculist ideas spread throughout the culture, masculists, when they are in the audience of a public talk given by a feminist, that is a monoconscious feminist, who trashes men in public, these masculists will then stand up and crush this monoconscious feminist with very angry, very verbally aggressive masculist attacks on her for her monoconscious bigotry. Such women will be harangued out of the room by vicious masculist gender political attacks, telling the other people in the room that clearly the feminists no longer have a monopoly over gender politics. Rather quickly, monoconscious feminists will learn to hide their negative opinions of men in public through fear of being intellectually and morally crushed by highly articulate, smarter masculists who will make mincemeat of her monoconscious bigotry and ignorance. She will not wish to experience such a crushing intellectual defeat a second time, so she will learn to shut up and hopefully a bit later convert herself into being a bi-conscious feminist, like her peers who see the advantages of being bi-conscious, that is, having boyfriends and getting some sex from quality males, unlike the case with a monoconscious feminist that she is. A few years from now, it's likely that the gender political pendulum will have swung back to its lowest equilibrium point, thanks to the masculists who are educating society that gender oppression is a two-way street. In time, those feminists who remain monoconscious will be universally labelled MFBs, that's monoconscious feminazi bigots, and be spat at. That won't be an agreeable experience for such feminists and will motivate them to convert themselves into becoming bi-conscious to the benefit of everyone. The above 10 masculist points are just the tip of the iceberg. Whole libraries have already been written about feminism. Masculism will go the same way. I myself have already written over 460 of these masculist flyers, each one with a different idea, a different take on the plight of the masculists and men in general. But the above 10 masculist points give a pretty good overview of the dominant issues of the masculists. They should be good food for thought for open-minded, budding female masculists who want to know what the masculists are thinking about. So, to budding female masculists, enjoy and learn from this flyer, and then later please vote with men for the men fairing of the gender laws, which will be in the interests of both sexes. Women will be given babies again, and men will be freed from decades-lasting manslaving parasitism at the hands of fluffies. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Author of the book Masculism, Men's Rebellion Against Being Man-Slaves to Women, and e-textbook of 460 plus masculist flyers for men's studies courses. Freely downloadable in Microsoft Word format from my website. Ciao.